Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, salam. Welcome to MACFEST 2026, although not to the usual MACFEST event. Today is a special memorial event to commemorate the 31st anniversary of the Bosnian genocide. And we've got a wonderful panel from all over the world. We would like to know where you're sitting in the world. If you could let us know in the chat, we're always fascinated about where our audience come from. You're most free to share your thoughts in the chat, but we won't have the normal Q&A session as usual. Our host for today is Enis Muminovic. Enis came to the UK as an 11-year-old refugee during the Bosnian War. Inspired by his mother's role as one of the founders of the Bosnian School and Society of Manchester, he now serves as chair of the charity, helping to preserve Bosnian language, culture, and identity with the community. Over to you, Enis. Welcome.
Thank you, Katarzyna. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My sincere thanks to Kesra Shahraz, MACFEST, Remembering Srebrenica, and yourself, Katarzyna, and everyone who's worked to bring this event together. I would also like to thank our distinguished guests, speakers, and most importantly, the survivors who have agreed to share their experience that remain deeply personal and painful. Events like this matter because remembrance cannot be passive. We remember those who were killed, we honour the survivors, we recognise those who opened their homes and communities to refugees, and we help younger generations understand where hatred, division and dehumanisation can lead. This year's theme, We Are Here, reminds us that survivors are here, their families are here, and our responsibility to remember is still here. I've been given a 5-minute slot, and I will just use that to give a brief history, a very brief history of Bosnia and a brief story of my personal experience. So before we hear the stories of the survivors and those who have helped the Bosnian refugees, I will start with a bit of a history of Bosnia. So Bosnia and Herzegovina is a small country in southeastern Europe. In 1991, shortly before the war, it had a population of 4.4 million. Today, it is estimated around 3 million. For centuries, Bosnia was a meeting place of different ethnicities, cultures, and religions. Sarajevo became known as the Jerusalem of Europe for 400 years, and that's because mosques, Catholic churches, Orthodox churches, and synagogues could be found standing close to one another. Bosnia came under the Ottoman rule during the 15th century, and in the reign of Sultan Mehmed II, Sarajevo developed as an important city at the western edge of the Ottoman Empire, and Islam gradually became an important part of Bosnia's identity. Sarajevo was also stood as the centre of some of Europe's most significant moments. In 1914, the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo set in motion the events that led to the First World War. During the Second World War, Sarajevo and Bosnia became important centres of resistance against fascism. Then, during the Bosnian War, Sarajevo became the site of one of the longest sieges in modern history. The siege lasted 1,425 days, that's almost 4 years. Civilians lived under constant artillery and sniper fire, often without reliable food, water, electricity or heating. Today, when you walk through Sarajevo, you will notice marks in the pavements known as Sarajevo roses. These are scars left by the mortar explosions. Some have been filled with red resin to commemorate the civilians who were killed at those locations. They make the recent history, as we are discussing tonight, visible between your feet as you walk through Sarajevo. My own story begins in Sarajevo, where I was born in 1982 and where both of my parents are from. I spent the first part of my childhood in Croatia. My father was a policeman and my mother was an accountant. Even as a young Muslim child growing up in Yugoslavia, I could sense there were two different worlds. There was the official public world of Yugoslavia, and there was the private life of our family. My parents were practicing Muslims, but they could not regularly attend the mosque without fear that it might affect their employment. As Yugoslavia began to break apart, Croatia declared independence in 1991. Nationalist movements were increasingly fueled by politics and propaganda of those in power. But my first understanding of war did not come through politics or television. It came through goodbyes. I remember sitting on a coach in 1993 with my mother and my younger brother, waving goodbye to my father, who had to remain behind. None of us knew when or whether we would ever see him again. We arrived in Manchester as refugees with nothing. At that moment, when we most needed help, we met people who supported us selflessly and expected nothing in return, some of whom you will hear from today. Their kindness gave us opportunity to begin again. From Manchester, we watched the horror of the Bosnian War unfold while trying to understand what was happening to the country and the people we left behind. Across Bosnia, Bosniaks, civilians were forced from their homes as part of an organised campaign of ethnic cleansing. Men and women were imprisoned in detention camps where they were tortured, abused and murdered. Bosnian Muslim women and girls were subjected to widespread and systematic rape and sexual violence. These crimes were not simply attacks against individuals, they were used as an instrument of terror against families and entire communities, mainly Muslims. Then, in July 1995, came Srebrenica. Srebrenica is a small town in eastern Bosnia. It had been declared a United Nations safe area in 1993. Thousands of Bosniak civilians gathered there because they believed that the United Nations would protect them, but that protection failed. Bosnian Serb extreme forces overran the enclave. Men and boys were separated from their mothers, wives, sisters, and children. Many civilians had sought safety around the United Nations compound at Potocari. Instead, men and boys were taken away to the detention and execution sites under the pretense they were being transported or questioned. Over the following days, more than 8,000 men and boys were systematically murdered and buried in mass graves. Today, the names of 8,372 victims are commemorated. International courts have established that what happened in Srebrenica was genocide, the worst atrocity committed on European soil since World War II. While learning about these horrors, we were also trying to build our lives in Manchester. We learned a new language, we continued our educations, we built careers, raised families, and formed a community. My mother helped to establish the Bosnian School and Society of Manchester, and today I have the privilege of serving as chair of that charity. Although ours is a relatively small community, I think we're probably the smallest in the UK, we carry an important responsibility. We owe it to those who did not escape, to the survivors, and to the future generations to tell the truth, resist denial, and keep remembrance alive. Tonight we will hear from survivors, community and faith leaders, academics, and people who helped Bosnian refugees rebuild their lives in Manchester. I hope that we listen not only to what happened, but also to what these stories ask of us today. Thank you. It's now my pleasure to welcome Neil Sledge, who's the co-chair of the Northwest Board of Remembering Srebrenica. Neil, thank you for joining us and for the important work you continue to do in promoting remembrance, education, and community understanding.
Thank you very much, Anis. It never fails to move me, your words. That was very powerful. I'm delighted to be here. I'm very honoured to be invited to be here alongside Yusuf Tai, who is the co-chair alongside me at Remembering Srebrenica Northwest. It means we're also on the National Board for Remembering Srebrenica. I am an educator and teacher. Also a local international solidarity officer for the National Education Union. And I am, as I say, co-chair of Remembering Srebrenica UK, Northwest, sorry. And Remembering Srebrenica is a British charitable initiative, and it's really building on what Ennis said, not just remembrance, but that's a very important part, not just sharing stories, not just sharing memories, not just keeping memories alive. All of these things are vital, and honouring victims and almost celebrating the fact that people have survived. But also, it's very much about building a cohesive society here with the lessons from Srebrenica, from the messages from survivors and the mothers of Srebrenica, and the wider Bosnian community. We must all play our own part, and this is what a big arm of the Remembering Srebrenica organisation does, is education. So it's remembrance, it's learning, and it's acting or pledging to do something about hate when you see it, and so on. So it's part funded by the government, but it's also a charitable organisation, and we're committed to using those lessons. So society free from hatred is the aim. I think someone has their hand up, so before I carry on, I will carry on. It says Yusuf Tai, but who's that with their hand? No. Okay. So the theme for this year, and then every year Remembering Srebrenica has a new theme, is We Are Here, as Ennis has already said. But it applies to all of us. So where are we? Where are we from? What communities are we part of? Who we are includes where we are and where we came from, as well as our hopes and dreams for the future, part of our identity. Our life can be told as a story, with each chapter describing another aspect or turning point, or as a journey. What journeys have we been on, whether they be metaphorical or actual? The phrase "we are here" invokes a sense of place and belonging. It symbolizes strength and resilience. Despite everything, we are here, and we're living proof of this. It's an acknowledgement of our individual and collective presence, locally, nationally, and globally. We Are Here is a statement of solidarity with those who survived the sieges and the genocides in Srebrenica and the wider Bosnian genocide across 1992 to 95. We Are Here is for the refugees who were welcomed, just like Enes and his mother Sadia, and accepted during the Bosnian War, and it's for the mothers of Srebrenica. It enables us all to remember, reflect, learn, and move forward together. It supports everybody, whoever you are, wherever you are from, wherever you came from, here, now, and going forwards into the future. It's a message of hope and unity. And the education aspect of Remembering Srebrenica can be summed up with this statement: what can we do today to make the world a better place tomorrow by learning from our yesterdays? Bit of a mouthful, but it's really linking the past with the present, with the future. And really the work that Ennis alluded to, that I've been heavily involved with since going to Bosnia in 2017 with a teacher delegation, is through the National Education Union, who've been very supportive with lots of various ways, including a poetry project. That's one of the many things we've done, which we have a short film of. I'll put the link to that into the chat afterwards. And also out of that has stemmed a survivor story resource pack for teachers and educators, which features two survivor stories in particular, one of which is Enes's mother, Sadia. So it's a real honor to be involved and to try and use those contacts, the networks, and the skills that I already have to keep amplifying the voices, the truth, and the messages. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for those words, and thank you for the work you and Yusuf continue to do. It really is an honour every time we're at these events. It really is a reminder of the selfless work that everybody does and the charities all around us. Thank you. Our next speaker played a direct role in helping Bosnian refugees when they arrived in Manchester. Esad Zaman is principal of the Tuition College and has served as khatib and imam in numerous mosques around Manchester. He supported Bosnian refugees during their arrival and helped families during the difficult early stages of settling into life in this city. Personally, I'll just give you a snippet of how much Esad helped my family. Esad practically taught me English. He helped me with my 13 plus to help me get into higher education. He supported for families who had left their homes, possessions, and loved ones behind. Practical help, friendship, and human kindness were invaluable. And Esad, we're very grateful to have you with us this evening. Over to you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, brothers and sisters, friends and potential friends, and good evening. So thank you very much for that very generous introduction, Enis. And mashallah, you've really grown up to be a very responsible and mature, intelligent young man. Alhamdulillah. So yes, just to put a bit of flesh on the bones that have just been mentioned. It was, I think, October 92, if I'm right. Obviously, up to that time, I've always been very much interested in current affairs, which impact Muslims all over. And so when the problem started in Bosnia, I was very much tuned in as to who the shakers and movers and what the issues were. So, I was reading up and very, very keen on seeing the situation. So I received a phone call from Professor Salim Al-Hassani, who was the head of the Muslim Youth Foundation at the time. And he asked me, we've just picked up a couple of coaches of Bosnian Muslim refugees, and we brought them here, and they're in Cheetham Hill in a mosque, and would you be able to take care of them? And explained what taking care meant. So I said, okay, because the emotions were high anyway, so this was an opportunity for me to do something practical rather than just suffer inside. So I was told there's 13 families, about 40 people in all, mothers and children. And my remit was, you've got to teach them English, you've got to teach them about the British system, and you've got to find them houses, housing benefit, dentists, opticians, doctors, and of course, schools for their children. So yeah, a bit of a remit, but alhamdulillah, I accepted that. And put my own sort of business aside for about 3 months. And alhamdulillah, within 3 months, they all were housed, as well as Enis's auntie. I think Enis and his family came a little bit later, if I recall, but Dudia and Alden, etc. So as this was going on, the Muslim Youth Foundation organized protest marches against the genocide that we could see was taking place in Bosnia. And alhamdulillah, I was one of those who helped organize those marches, and I was asked to be the official media spokesman. Of course, that puts a certain responsibility on your shoulders, because you've got to know what you're talking about. So that meant that I had to do some serious reading up on the history of Bosnia and how it came to this, and who the Bosnian Muslims were, because as has been mentioned perhaps earlier, that we were as Muslims growing up here, aware of Muslims in Africa and Asia, Middle East, but not Muslims in Europe, white Muslims. And so when all this happened, then obviously you start to unravel the history. And then I realized that actually up to 500 years ago, there was a Christian sect called a Bogomil sect. And because they were being persecuted by the Orthodox and Catholics, in order to escape that persecution, en masse, they accepted Islam. And indeed, as I was following the media, I was asking myself the question, well, they look the same. They in every way. What is the problem here? We had to get to the root of it. And I remember on Radio 4, there was Michael Burke, famous, well-known journalist for the BBC, who did a live interview with Radovan Karadzic, who was the key chief architect of the slaughter and the ethnic cleansing that was happening. And he asked him a simple question. He says, "Why do you hate these Muslims?" And his reply was really stark. And you've got to, I suppose, as one might say, take your hat off to his honesty. He said, when these Bosnian Muslims, when they were Christians, they were our brothers. When they became Muslims, they became our enemies. And I thought, wow, well, there it is in a nutshell. They're the same race. Both of them are Slavs, same color, same in every way that you could see. But because they call themselves Muslims, that's enough for them to be basically wiped out. So, that reminded me of the verse in the Quran, It basically means unless you Muslims are in every way similar to those around you, then, you'll never be accepted. Now, I was just indulging in a bit of current affairs and a bit of the political side of things. I was also, for the Muslim Youth Foundation, the main journalist for the Islamic Banner, which is the main newsletter. And in that capacity, I interviewed some of the Bosnian men who came over subsequently. And one of them actually was Nazira's husband, who is Nazira being one of our guests today. And, of course, the uncle of Enis. And I asked him, what's your experience? Because he was in the Bosnian army. He said, well, and, being somebody of Pakistani origin myself, what he said really did obviously please me and make me feel proud. He was saying, he gave me one incident as how, Muslim countries did help. And he said, for 6 months, we were being bombed from the hills in Sarajevo, the flats. Somebody was pointing out from within the flats. Somebody was pointing out which the Muslim flats were, and they were being targeted. And those particular flats were being targeted, and of course, people being killed. And this happened for 6 months, and we could not identify who it was within the flats who was directing the fire from the Serbs in the hills. And then a Pakistani military person with all his equipment came over, and within 2 hours he'd identified every single one of the individuals who was directing the Serbs who were helping the Serbs in the hills. And he said within 2 hours we identified them and we obviously neutralized them. So that obviously is something that is something you understand from personal experience helping them. And of course we know from some of the commentators. I mean, one particular commentator, I think he was a researcher for King's College London, George Joffe, if I remember correctly. He was very, very frank in his analysis. He said, look, obviously you've got the Serbs and the Russians on the one side, and you've got the US, UK, France, Canada on the other side. And we should be very, very clear about something. Neither side wants to see a Muslim country in the heart of Europe. And so basically they've got more or less the same agenda. And that was really stark. And quite disturbing to hear that. But of course, that's what we saw, and that is basically one of the things that led to Srebrenica, because the Dutch peacekeepers who were supposed to guard the Bosnian Muslims in Srebrenica, which, as Enis has mentioned earlier, was a safe haven, an official safe haven. So yeah, had to be protected. They just gave up that protection and let Milosevic and Mladic, his chief executioner, head of the military, just take over. And of course, the slaughter was, you could predict it, and they knew what was going to happen. So that's the sort of politics that I remember very carefully. And of course, it was, I think, August of '92, if I remember, John Major invited Milosevic, who was ultimately the one, who was the head of Serbia, ultimately responsible. He invited him to a meeting, and we all thought, everyone thought, John Major, the Prime Minister of the UK, would tell him, look, you need to stop this. This is unacceptable. What he actually said, and I remember the BBC actually saying this, what he said to him was, you're a bad man, but we're not going to use our militaries to stop you from doing what you're doing. Basically giving him the green light. And that really was very, very sorry to hear. And of course, we saw the subsequent result of that. And we saw how the UN allowed, they went in to feed the Bosnian Muslims, but as soon as they left, they allowed the Serbs to continue with their killing. So they are on the hills, and you've got the Muslim villages there down below, and they just took a break to allow them to die, to feed them before killing them. So the UN basically was saying, we don't want to see Bosnian Muslims dying on empty stomachs. We'd like to see them die on full stomachs, which really is the reality of what was happening. And then, in terms, just to finish off, I remember, when it actually stopped. A brilliant Bosnian Muslim general, I think his name was Atif Dudajkovic, if I remember correctly. He was taking back enormous amounts of land from the Bosnian Serbs that they'd taken over, and using their weapons against them. And he had taken back a huge amount of land, and the Americans already decided that they were going to cut Bosnia up and never going to allow it to be one piece. And only when Dudajkovic reached Prijedor, which is about 1.5 hours from Banja Luka, that the Americans stepped in, because they said that we want the Serbs to have their own Republic Srpska, and Banja Luka was the only city that could act as a capital of that. So you could see what the plan already was. Either the Muslims were going to lose all of Bosnia, or, as Dudajkovic sort of ruined their plans, and he was taking it back, and they thought, right, that's it. We are going to split Bosnia up one way or another. And just to finish off on a rather sort of humorous note, one of the soldiers that I interviewed when he came over here, he said, there's something interesting happened. Whenever we were about to advance forward against the Serb forces, we would say, Allahu Akbar, God is the greatest. And that would give us enormous energy to surge forward against the Serbs. And after a few times this happened, the Serbs, who didn't really know what the Muslims were saying, thought, you know what, these must be some magical words that give you enormous enthusiasm to surge forward. And so the Serbs also started saying Allahu Akbar just before, as they wanted to surge forward. That was, I thought it was quite humorous.
Thank you, Asad. What you described this evening began with a single phone call, but it became a remarkable commitment. For many Bosnian refugees, that practical support, the compassion, the willingness to act will never be forgotten. On behalf of my family, myself, and our community, and all the families you helped, thank you for answering that phone call and everything that followed. We now have the honour of hearing from our chief guest, Professor Akbar Salahuddin Ahmed. Professor Ahmed is an internationally respected academic, author, poet, playwright, filmmaker and former diplomat. He holds the Ibn Khaldun Chair of Islamic Studies at American University, is a global fellow of the Wilson Center, and is the author of several important works, including Islam in Europe. Professor Ahmed, it is a privilege to welcome you to this memorial event. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Enes. Thank you for that introduction and for hosting this very important event. So let me also thank Kaisar Shiraz, the presiding genius and founder of this MACFEST movement. And selecting topics which are so important and so relevant. It is really a great honor to be on a panel like this, honor and pleasure. So we are going to start by showing you two short clips, both set in Srebrenica, and one of them talking to Khadija, who was the sole survivor of something like 54 relatives who were killed in the genocide. And I'll talk about her after we see the films. I am in Srebrenica in Bosnia. One of the worst genocides in the late 20th century took place here. Several thousand Muslim men, many of them mere boys, were slaughtered with the United Nations looking on. This was just half a century after Europe said, never again. This region, the Balkans, was on the front lines of the confrontation between Christian Europe and the Muslim Ottoman Empire. For centuries there was clash and conflict, but also there were times of peace and harmony between Jews, Christians and Muslims. The confrontation created an idea in the minds of Europeans that Islam was predatory, alien and uncivilized. That idea is the basis for the Islamophobia in Europe today.
This is your husband? Yes.
Ovo mi je stariji sin.
Elderly son.
Ovo mi je mali sin.
Younger son.
Almir. Jeste, više djece nisam nimala.
I just had two sons.
Bili su mladi, nisu se ženu, nisam
They
im,
were
nemam
not married.
unuća. I sad živim potpuno
So
sama.
totally live now alone.
Ali uz Božju... Teško je živjeti
It's
samo,
difficult to live alone.
ali uz Božju
But
pomoć
Allah
i uz
willing,
one koji stvarno dođu da se poklone žrtvama, da se suosjećaju sa preživjelim žrtvama
who
genocida,
sympathize with us.
opet nekako
It's
preživljavamo.
easier to survive.
Ali vjerujte, meni su to uradili Srbi.
This is what
I nama u
happened to
stvari,
me here.
nisam samo ja
Serbs
majka, ovakje
killed
majki,
my family.
ovo je sve majka
It's not
rodila.
just me, it's many mothers.
Jer Ima dosta majki koje su umrle, nisu saznale
There are
istinu,
many
nisu
mothers
pronašle
who
svoje
died
najmilije.
before finding out about what happened to their sons.
Ima majki koje će umrijeti,
There are
neće
many
saznati
mothers
za
who
svoje
will
najmilije.
die before they find out.
Ali
What
vjerovatno
happened
nas
to
je
their
tako dragi Allah me ostavio, nije što želim da živim, nego da pričam o onome
Allah
šta mi se desilo i šta nam
left
se
me to
desilo.
live, not just because I should live, it's just because He wants me to tell the story.
Jer mi muslimani nikad ne tražimo osvetu, uvijek samo, mi se borimo samo za pravdu. I našto mi u Bosni i Hercegovini.
In Bosnia we just fight for justice.
When injustice happens to one people, it affects everyone. And it is our love that has brought us here to Khadija. And we have offered the Fatiha for Abdullah and for her two sons.
But they're good people in the world,
Ima dobri ljudi u svijetu.
amongst people of all faiths.
Među svim vjerama.
And they stand by you. They continue to fight the battle for
I oni se bore zajedno
goodness and peace.
za dobro.
Isto dva sina ukopana, više djece nije ni imao i to je sada. Sad su ukopani za ovu dženazu.
They are buried here this year.
And you had your own personal story, Hassan. You were able to escape. Tell us that story.
I fled from Srebrenica with my twin brother and my father. Along with more than 10,000 of men and boys, we started to move, to walk in a column, one by one, marching from Srebrenica through the woods to Tuzla. And we were literally afraid to come down here to Dutch base because we knew that Dutch battalion would hand us over to Serb army. I was almost captured, and I managed to escape, and I saw them shooting at men and boys, and I was very lucky to escape, to sneak out from those ambushes, and finally on the 16th of July 95 I got to Tuzla, to first Muslim village on the free territory. When I got to Tuzla, I found my mother, my younger brother, my grandfather and my mother at Tuzla airport, where all the refugees from Srebrenica were placed. But still, there were no, my father and my twin brother were not there, and we were hoping that they will show up one day. And it took many years, and finally in 2003 my father was buried here, and in 2005 my twin brother was buried here.
So you never saw them?
No.
And Hassan, that is the UN camp, the Dutch camp?
Yes. From, you see that white building?
Yes.
From that place to the blue one, all the way down, you see it? It's big. 30,000 of refugees got in front of that blue factory, hoping to be admitted inside. Dutch said no. They said only 3,000 women with babies are allowed to enter. Then Mladic came with his military. Then he spoke. He told lies about everybody's protection. When the cameras were cut off, his soldiers got among that big crowd of 25,000 people. They were looking for men and boys. Those men and boys were being picked, were being taken back to execution sites. They kept taking away men there and killing them. So more than 400 of them were killed while UN was here in the base. And of course, women and girls were being raped. Then they brought buses and trucks. They only, as I said before, they only let women and children and very old men to go. They separated more than 2,000 men. All of them were killed later at different sites from here, outside of Srebrenica.
Se istina sazna, da se zločin kazni.
Fight for the justice to be told.
Da prošlost ne smijemo zaboraviti, da nam se ne ponovila u skorijoj budućnosti.
To make sure that we do not forget our past, to make sure that the same thing does not repeat in future.
I borimo se da se više nikad nikome ne ponovi ni Bosna ni Hercegovina, a i sama Srebrenica.
To anyone, anywhere.
Enes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So I'd like permission to read the couple of lines I have from Khadija, the lady you just saw, based on the interview we had of her. And I'd like the audience to listen very carefully. A very sensitive and very intelligent woman who's lost 54 members of her family is devastating. I can't even think about it without becoming emotional. She writes, "This is just a punishment to live without a complete family, without a whole family, without anybody, to ask questions every night, thousands of questions, and not have any answers. It's been 20 years since the Srebrenica genocide happened. For me, it's like 20 minutes. I've been longing for my children until now. I will never wish this kind of life, even for those perpetrators." So I just want to say that when this happened, the Bosnian genocide and the situation in Bosnia, I responded very completely and very emotionally for all kinds of historical and personal reasons. I myself was born and grew up in 1947 when there was so much violence in the air and so many killings were taking place. And as a Muslim, I always felt that for some reason, I had done nothing in this world, yet I was a target. So I had a lot of sympathy for what was happening in Bosnia and an attempt to create a rapport and a connection with the Bosnians. So I wrote about them, I filmed them, Journey into Europe, the book and the film, and Living Islam for the BBC again has chunks of the Bosnian experience. So I want to share very briefly, because we have limited time, on the basis of my knowledge of Bosnians, and I have spent several visits to Bosnia and got to know the people there, and have great sympathy and love for the people. So I want to share my conclusions for this lecture. I want to make 3 points. First, in Bosnians, I saw with my team, I had this wonderful team, and my wife was there, Zinat, and Dr. Huti, who I believe has joined us. I hope she's joined us. So we saw that these were the best of Europeans. Don't have any illusions about it. These are Europeans and they're proud to be European. They have a history of Europe, whatever the racism against them. And number two, the best of the Muslims. They were committed Muslims and they were interpreting Islam in a way that was very modern and yet traditional. It was unique. And the Muslim world, unfortunately, doesn't fully know about what the Bosnians have to offer. I had the privilege of getting to know, for example, Dr. Haris, who was the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister at one stage of Bosnia. And it's just incredible. We spent a lot of time discussing Goethe, the great German poet, Sufi mystic poet who loved Islam, and Rumi, and doing comparisons. That was the caliber of the man. Dr. Haris then very kindly asked that my book, Living Islam, be translated into Bosnian and the film be dubbed into Bosnian. And then he worked with his colleague, Enes. I mentioned to young Enes here that Enes Karic was the Minister for Education. Again, a great intellectual, great friend. And then the two muftis, the grand muftis, the present one, Professor Hussein, and the former one, Mustafa Cheric. Again, these are giants, intellectual giants, scholars. They became great friends. And finally, of course, Mirnes Kovac, the great and brilliant journalist of Bosnia, editor of one of the major papers there, we became great friends. And through them, I learned of the Bosnian culture and Bosnian people. And I mustn't forget the translator of my book into Bosnian. Again, a female professor, very inspiring. At the height of the bombardment of Sarajevo, we mentioned Sarajevo a couple of times. At the height of it, she recounted how in a flat, which in Sarajevo, which was being bombarded, she would leave early in the morning with the papers that she was translating, go to her office, and she said, if I die, I don't care, but I'm not leaving my papers. That was a commitment. And she said, I prayed to Allah that I am allowed to finish the translation before I'm killed in this war. And by the grace of God, she did finish. So my first impression, my first point is of a remarkable people, and maybe their geographical position puts them in this awkward position. For Europeans, they're still too Muslim. For Muslims, they're too European. But apart from that, they are people that people should really understand outside Bosnia, outside in Europe and in the Muslim world. My second point is the need to understand the people of Bosnia and the genocide in a cultural and historical context. It's very important that we understand the background because history is alive. History is very much alive and contested. So not every Serb is a bad man, not every Bosnian is a good man, but there are historical processes taking place. There are battles and there are narratives that are being shaped. So we must understand that. The Bosnian narrative itself, I also interviewed Bosnians in St. Louis in the United States, like Enes, they migrated and settled here in the United States. And we had very frank discussions with them. And they told us some very interesting things. They said, we have no prejudice here. When Americans see us, we are blue-eyed, we are blonde. They assume we are white Americans. But then the moment we start speaking and they say, what's your name? Someone says Muhammad, someone says Ahmad. And suddenly they say, the attitude changes because then we are being seen not as an ethnic group, but as a religious group. So this was my second point we need to keep in mind. Third, and perhaps the most important, we have to think of the future. We have to think of the famous saying, never again. After the Second World War, we saw the horrors of what happened in the Holocaust and how the Jewish community was targeted, and we said, never again. And yet we saw that late in the century, in the 1990s, genocide was happening again. And we said, never again. We pray that this will stop with this century. And we are into the 21st century now, and we are already seeing, we saw what's been happening in Gaza, we saw what's happened to the Rohingya, and I could just go on and on. I think we have to step back and as human beings, as people committed to trying to improve this, the Homo sapien on this planet, we need to be asking, what can we do to improve things? What can we do to build bridges? Again, being inspired by the Bosnian example, because I never heard any Bosnian saying, we want revenge, we want something bad to happen to our perpetrators, the people who did these things to us. Source of inspiration. And I commend Kaisa Shiraz for even coming up with this title, Honey, Not Hatred. Or my friend Dr. Ross, who's joined this session today, who's promoting pluralism in America. A very important concept of bringing people together. We have been with Dr. Hoti and Frankie Martin talking about mingling. It's a similar concept where you mingle societies. Remain yourself, keep your integrity, but mingle and therefore are able to embrace all of society. And our holy books, our religious traditions promote the embrace of all of humanity. Islam has a beautiful and a compassionate view of humanity. God is Rabbul Alameen. He's the God of all the universes. The Holy Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, was again, he's of Alameen. He's of all of humanity. The Prophet never said, I'm only for the community. So these are things that inspire Muslims. We heard this inspiring story of Asad, how he went out and helped the boss simply because he was responding to something in his own culture. So with that, I want to conclude by saying, let us truly believe and promote the idea of never again and be inspired by this moment of reflection that Kesra has given us to think of those terrible events that took place, and that we pray and hope we can say with genuine sincerity and confidence, never again. And Kesra, finally, could I request you to send the link of this session of yours to all the new cabinet and new members of the new Prime Minister's government, so that people understand the work you people are doing in Manchester and how this work needs to be broadcast and appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that remarkable and thought-provoking contribution. I've only had the privilege of meeting you this evening, but hearing about your breadth of work as a scholar, diplomat, advocate for greater understanding between communities makes it a genuine honour to share this event with you.
Thank you, Enes. Thank you, Enes. And if you read my book, you will come across the secret of how Pakistan helped Bosnia and break the siege of Sarajevo. And it was told to me by Dr. Haris and the Pakistan ambassador, who was a general, so he knew what had happened. It's a remarkable story. It's all in the book.
SubhanAllah, yeah. But while listening this evening, I looked up your book, Journey into Europe, Islam, Immigration and Identity. It's an exploration of Islam, migration, identity and the place of Muslim communities within Europe. I'll certainly be reading it following this event. I would warmly encourage members of the audience to look it up and join me in discovering more of Professor Ahmed's important work.
Thank you.
Professor Ahmed, it's been a privilege to hear from you. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
And it's now my pleasure to welcome Kesra Shahraz, MBE. Kesra is the founder and director of MACFEST, an author, peace activist, and Remembering Srebrenica community champion. Through her work, she has created spaces in which people from different backgrounds can meet, like the event tonight, listen to one another and challenge prejudice and hatred through education, culture, and dialogue. Kesra, thank you for bringing us together this evening and for your continued commitment to remembrance and community understanding. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Anis. First of all, thank you to you for your marvelous hosting. I quickly text your mom saying, look, he's doing a marvelous job, mashallah. Well done. And thank you to all the speakers. We are really honored to gather everyone together. We've got 4 survivors, including yourself, Anis, and we've got the 2 co-chairs. And of course, the highlight of our evening is Professor Akbar Ahmed. I mean, you discovered him today, Anis, but you know, in the Muslim world at large, he is 1 in a million, 1 of 100 famous Muslim poet, filmmaker, scholar, playwright, you name it, he's done it. I mean, we are in awe of his work, and he plays a crucial part in MACFEST. And when I discovered that he's actually got a lot to say about this, he's actually made a film, we had to have him, and he's been very generous with his time. And he has enriched our panel, as you've noticed. Thank you to Asad as well. Asad could have gone all evening. I had to stop him at the end, but he did a lot. And of course, and Neil as well. So thank you, all of you. So where do I come into this? 13 years ago, we were invited, a women delegation, to go to Bosnia and see for ourselves what had happened. And I'm going to share 2 or 3 points. The realities of the war struck us. We went to the big room, that barrack where 3,000 men were killed. We went to the cemetery, the poignant cemetery where people are buried. We were shown the mountains where people chased into and heard the stories, tragic stories. We went to the center where they're still collecting, finding body parts, and women are still looking for their loved ones. We went to the center for women, where women who were raped in the war, and we were given all those details. As a woman myself who feels very strongly about women, injustice against women, I want to focus on them. 1, it was so painful to hear that mothers, sisters, they were still looking for body parts even 30 years later. Imagine that. Remember, people were massacred, they were moved from one grave to another place. Can you imagine that lifelong commitment to find your loved ones? That was one thing. Secondly, as a woman, and this is a theme I've got in my second novel, Typhoon, about rape. Muslim women in Bosnia, thousands of them, were systematically raped, we learned. Often in front of their family. Some had children. And imagine the trauma for Muslim women having to go through that shameful process. And then we talked to women who said, after the war, they still saw those men on the street in the same town. Imagine the horror and the realities of those women's lives. That really has stayed with me to this day. And thirdly, what we learned also, and this has come through, amazing Bosnian women, forgiving women, dignified women, strong women. They lost their men, sons, brothers, husbands. They are upright, they remain strong, they remain hopeful. We really have to applaud these women. And we heard this story from Sister Monera, who was there, and Hassan, who was in the film, we met him too. He told us all of that. So now, because time is running, I want to show you 4 paintings. I had the pleasure, the privilege, because I'm a community champion for Remember Srebrenica, to be invited each year to the National Memorial in London. And this time they had paintings actually depicting the reality of war. Here is a painting of a mother grief-stricken. Can you imagine the grief? Imagine the grief of Khadija that Professor Akbar Ahmed mentioned, 54 people who you lost. Second image, please. And this one, I think this one, I know who painted this. I don't know the names of the other one. This was done by Robert McNeil. It shows people who were herded into truck to taken away. And I think one of our sisters, Dudia, she's listening in Bosnia at the moment now, and she described that scene to me. And her sister Nazira is here tonight, and she will share that scene with us. Now, next picture, please. This one, the women, look at them, what they're going through. The last one, please. And this is the most poignant of all. I mean, it's a mother washing the bones of a loved one. And this is still going on. So the suffering is really still going on. So I'm going to stop there talking about myself. I'm going to turn to now to Nazira, our special guest. This family is very special for me. Asad mentioned how he had to resettle people and all of that you learn. Well, guess what? Like Enes, my son was one of his, he was a tutor of my son. And he mentioned about these families coming over. And I connected with a family with 3 sisters, Dudia sitting in Boston listening, Nazira who's here, and Resama. Enes' mother came later, Sadia. This family is my family. They actually had their first Eid in my home. And Nazira at that moment was 29 years of age, quite young. She was 9 months pregnant. And now she's going to tell us about her story. Nazira, are you okay to speak? She has spoken many times with me at these events in different places. So Nazira, share with us, tell us what was life like before the war?
We had wonderful life. We worked together. We went to school together. We celebrated everything together, inviting each other a wedding, sharing everything, never cook cake, bake cake that we don't share with our neighbor. Leaving children with our neighbor, if we have to leave earlier for job or something, leave up to somebody come pick up children or pick up children from school and drop them to school. This was life up to last day of working, my working. I worked with my friend and we hold hand. She held me by hand and we passing, and she said, oh, there is my husband, he's come to pick me up. I said, okay, see you tomorrow. But I never know that his war will break in Sarajevo. I lived and worked in Sarajevo when war broke out. Only what we realized that Serbs colleagues start every day is one is not coming to work, another is not coming to work, and one day is our boss, he's called Zoran, and we start asking, where is Zoran? He's so surprised that he will miss work, you know. And we always looking at our friend who is Serbs, looking at her. And then she said, yes, I know somebody last night knocked on the door, on his door, and they told him, we need you, you have to go with us. And that is, and we asked, who is that? She said, it's army. That was Yugoslavia army who stayed on side of Serbs. And when is war break.
And what do you think, why did the war break? I mean, what was it, in your opinion? What happened? How did this hatred start?
This is when Yugoslavia break out. You know, that is start separating. Slovenia get independent, Croatia get independent. As Serbia wanted to make great Serbia, having Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and coast of Croatia. They wanted to make great Serbia. when Croatia get Slovenia independent, then Croatia, then Bosnia said we don't want to stay in Great Serbia. And Serb, it was majority of Muslim who is living over 50% of Muslim live in Bosnia. And Serbs, they said, if you not stay in Great Serbia, that with Muslim will be vanished from the Bosnia, we will wipe them off. And our president, Alija Izetbegović, he said, I am on one of parliament, he mentioned, I am swearing to God that Muslim will not be wiped off from Bosnia land. We will stand, we don't want war. And he always mentioned for war is need too, but we don't want war. But they did manage to, because of they had the army stand on their side. And you know that is Yugoslavian army was fourth in Europe. Mm-hmm. Most higher and most powerful army in Europe. How Tito was very strong, and we was very strong on army. We always believing that somebody else will attack us, not inside that they will attack us. Army who is be paid 11% of our wages for that army, and that army came to kill us, you know, and we have to run away for this.
Okay, so tell us about that, then your journey coming to England. What happened in those few days? You came sisters together, I remember. I'm sorry, I know it's very, very painful for you.
Yeah, I have to tell first when is war break in Sarajevo, it was approaching, was April, Eid, and Karadzic, he mentioned, he said it's going to be bloody Eid. And our president, Alija Izetbegović, he mentioned, he said, Karadzic, how you can put bomb here, same as Palm, that you not hurt everybody. Because in Bosnia is live Muslim, Orthodox, Christian, Catholics, Jew, and we called atheist, others who was communist that time. And he mentioned how you can bomb Sarajevo, but you're not hurting everybody. But some Serbs, Karadzic urged Serbs to leave Sarajevo immediately. And some Serbs, they didn't want to leave. They said, who you are to dictate us, where are we going to live? And some Serbs stayed because for other aim to be sniper, to navigate bombs for civilians, and majority of them left. And it was Eid. Me and my husband wanted to go to visit my mom with my daughter. When I approached coach station in Sarajevo, I never see how many coaches was in Sarajevo. All coaches go only for Serbia. And only they said, we are not stopping anywhere. Oh, we are going to Serbia. Please don't enter to any other places. We are not stopping. And it was Eid. And they start bombarding Sarajevo. And Sarajevo from hills. And casualty was many casualty, because they have Sarajevo same as on from the hill. They can see everything. And how many people was bombarded and killed in Sarajevo from hills, from the grenade, from bombarding. That how much is more killed, but somebody with Serbs who stayed there and navigate is where is civilians, where civilians was waiting for the bread, for the water. In marketplace is called Markale, is massacre was on marketplace. On funerals, on the day on funerals, they bombard. And one children's playground where I was witness on that children's playground, there is neighbor Serb, 70 years old man, stayed. We thought is loyal. And one of mother lived opposite him. And he navigate a bomb. It was cloudy day. It wasn't sunny. And it was quiet, everywhere is quiet. When it's quiet, when it's not bombarding, when it's sheltering, you on the edge, what is going to happen, you're always waiting what is happening, where is going to bomb explode. And children's run, because they at night, they in basement, they run on playground because it was quiet day. Then is a bomb explode in that between children. And every single child was killed. Mother was devastating. Mother started running, crying, screaming, fighting for the flesh of the piece of the children, of arm or the leg, head. But they only flesh. Only flesh.
I know.
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, Nazira. It's very painful for you.
I will never get over that.
No, not at all. No.
See that.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that time I left my daughter with my mom. I wanted to go back same day, tomorrow to my mother again. I couldn't because I was blocked. Mm-hmm. And that time I said, this is what is Allah saved my daughter. I could be one of that. If she was with me, I will be one of that mother who was fighting for piece of flesh, for that children. And after that, I felt pregnant with my second daughter. Mm-hmm. Because day and night it was bombarding. Yeah, I have to leave Sarajevo, but no way out. I managed to get out.
With your family?
Only with me.
Uh-huh. Okay. Describe your first day in England. Okay.
When we came, I reunited with my daughter from April up to August. I was separate from my daughter. And my sister Dudia brought my daughter and her 2 children, small children, to my sister Sadia live in Croatia and his mom.
Okay.
And they went there, and I get piece of paper like that much. Mm-hmm. My sister-in-law, she's told me, Nazira, come out from Sarajevo and go to Croatia, go to Zagreb and take your daughter. I am going to Holland. I am waiting for papers. And Dudia wanted to go somewhere but can't because they're waiting for you. I didn't know anything because everything was blocked and the communication stopped. I didn't know anything about them, or they didn't know about me. Am I alive or not? Because I was heavily bombarded.
Yes.
And when I am reunited with my daughter in Zagreb.
Okay.
She first asked, how is Dad here? I said no. And when we wanted to go with human appeal to England, and my daughter, she was 6 years old, and she said, I told her we are going now to somewhere will be safe and nice. You can go to school and you will have friends and you will be so nice. And she told me, she said, Mom, can't this coach take me to Bosnia to leave me with my dad? I don't want to go anywhere. I want to go to Bosnia to see my dad. I didn't have any answer to tell him. When we arrived with coaches to England, we arrived to this very mosque. I remember 3 coaches, 2 coaches stay in Birmingham, and one came to Manchester. And my sister, Dudi, I don't know how she decided to come to Manchester. And she spoke with one lady in coach, and she said she has brother in Manchester and her daughter in Manchester. And she said, okay, she's going to Manchester, we are going with her, because at least we have somebody that can speak English, that they can speak Bosnian, that they can translate. This is how Dudija was so wild. And she decided that we're going to Manchester, not staying in Birmingham. We didn't have anybody. And when we came in this very mosque. When we came, I remember that time, that we have lunch, and that we saw Muslim people, how they was looking at us. And we are coming, because from communist system, from everything, we are coming in short skirt, in the short sleeves, in look like with, they said, are you sure that they are Muslim? They didn't believe that we are Muslim. We are white, we are blue eyes, green eyes, with not wearing properly, they ask another lady, are you sure they are Muslims? And the day after lunch, we went to Cheetham Hill Mosque. I know we stay 7 days in Cheetham Hill Mosque, women and children. It was it was one Friday. We have to leave mosque. We didn't understand why they are asking us to leave. They said it's pray in mosque if somebody wanted to pray, but women and children have to go out, because of noise. And my sister Dudija, she said, I want to stay. But she tried to explain one lady. She said, women can't pray. They said, yes, the women can't pray. First time that we heard that this woman can pray in Juma, in here. And that when we met brother Assad, Afzal Khan, and Afzal wife, Shakira, and many other people who I can't remember, who help us to find houses. And 5 of us family based in Longside in one big huge house. Or each of us had, one family has each of a room, and we stay like that. And they help us with school, putting children in school, putting register as the doctor. I was heavily pregnant and go to hospital, and this is our journey, how we.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey. And your children are now grown up, your daughters?
Yeah, I have now my 5 grandchildren. One is 9, 8, 7, 5. Another will be in few days, 5.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nazira, my lovely sister. It's been very painful, very poignant for you to go back over those memories, but our audience, our speaker, needed to hear your story.
Thank you for organizing, and thank you that we have to speak. We have to, that we never forgot. Yeah. We have to educate young people. Yes. What is educate young people. I know what is happening from my experience. That is everybody politician who wanted to desperate, they can't offer anything. Only they will use nationalism, racism, and religious to come on power. But they not care about people. They can't offer anything better than people. Ordinary people start fighting. Poor people start fighting. Yes, we have to educate people. This is what is my aim, to educate.
Absolutely. And you're doing a grand job in educating people, raising awareness. I think we have about 20 minutes maximum, but we have 2 other speakers. One joining us from America, Mike Ghosh, and we also have Afzal Khan, our MP. So I'm just thinking, shall we have a little break with Afzal Khan as a speaker, and then we'll go to Azra, and then we'll finish with Mike, who has joined us. And we will, if we go a few minutes, everyone, please bear with us, because it's a very important panel and we want to hear their stories. Yes. If you need to leave, you can leave, but for the moment, we are still here, and we got Azra and Ada and also Mike and Afzal. So I suggest, Enis, let's go for Afzal first.
Can I just steal 1 minute?
Yeah, of course you can. Yes, please do.
Listening to Nazira, thank you first. And for me, this is a very personal moment because Nazira is my auntie.
Yeah.
There's no easy words after hearing her speak as a survivor. I also must acknowledge her oldest sister, my mother's oldest sister, my auntie Dudia. As the eldest sister, so much of the responsibility fell on her. And as a family, we owe her enormous debts of gratitude for everything she did to support and protect and hold the family together. As your nephew, I'm deeply proud of you, Nazira. Thank you. And thank you for your courage, your strength and helping us. And Dudia, thank you for everything you carried and everything you did for the family.
For those of you who don't know Dudia, Dudia is at the heart of Manchester. Everybody knows Dudia in Manchester, mashallah. And she's a team member in MACFEST. She's amazing. She would have been here today, but she's sitting in Bosnia and it's difficult for her. So you want to introduce Afzal then? Afzal, are you there? Unless he had to go. Okay. If not, shall we have Mike? If Mike is here. Oh, yeah, we can't see you. There you are. Well done. I've been trying to get hold of you all day today. Assalamu alaikum.
Difficult.
And where are you sitting in America? Where are you sitting in America?
I'm in Dallas, Texas. Dallas, Texas.
Okay, you have 2 to 3 minutes max. Okay, over to you.
Sure. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Akbar Ahmed. He's a great scholar. And I also want to share that we are recognizing him as a pluralist of the year in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill in September. I mean, it is a small recognition for a big man like him, but I just want to share that. And what Nazira was saying, education, it is on that point I'll mention. For the last 20 years, we have on January 21st, third Sunday of every first year, we hold a Holocaust and genocides, and we have covered Bosnia 2 times, and also I want to thank Holbrook, who was single-handedly pushed for Clinton to stop the massacre, and also there were so many good people out there. And on my part, also it was difficult to hear the story of Khatija losing her 54 family members. And of course, it is not, and also when Dr. Akbar Ahmed was talking about meeting Bosnians in St. Louis, that was a good touch, how they felt. With that, I want to share that we have to bring a change. As Muslims, and Dr. Akbar Ahmed is leading that, and I'm also doing my part of it, to teach pluralism. Pluralism is respecting the otherness of the other and accepting the God-given uniqueness to each one of us. Ultimately, we want to create a cohesive society where each one of us, no matter what faith, tradition, ethnicity we are, we must feel secure who we are. Once we do that, that would be a recognition or civilization, high point in civilization, to accept and respect each other. And I just wanted to share that. By the way, also when the Bosnia thing was going on, I was glued to TV. Phil Donahue was one of the biggest speakers, and one of his co-hosts said something very difficult for anyone to hear. And Phil Donahue said, the Bosnian women are being raped. And the other guy said, oh, they are Muslim women. I was just so angry at that time. And I had a Macintosh computer at that time. I set non-stop fax to their studio. I didn't want them to have anything else other than keep receiving the same message. Next day, they apologized and stopped this kind of dehumanizing Muslim women or any women in Bosnia. I just wanted to share that. And I want to thank Dr. Akbar Ahmed. And I'm so glad to hear this. We need to constantly remind ourselves what's happening. And as Akbar Ahmed said, never again. Thank you so much.
Dr. Gauss, thank you for speaking. I will just read your introduction, which we missed. So Dr. Gauss is a social scientist, author, speaker, television commentator, interfaith wedding officiant, and president of the Centre for Pluralism. His work focuses on peaceful coexistence, human dignity, and building understanding across religions and cultural differences. Thank you, Dr. Gauss. The next introduction, again, is personal to me because Aida and Azra are very close friends of my family. We've shared years of friendship, community, and memories together, and I'm deeply grateful that they have agreed to speak this evening. Aida and Azra, thank you for being with us and for trusting us with your family's story. I will hand over to you now.
Hi, thank you. I'm Azra, and this is my mother, Aida. Before we get started on sharing our experience, I just wanted to thank all the attendees and participants on the call today. Remembering Srebrenica as a charity is all about remembrance, and people taking the time out of their busy day and evening to sit and listen to these stories is so important. It honours the victims, and a common theme throughout the evening today has been about lessons not learned. And I think the only way we can truly learn and ensure this doesn't happen in future is by sharing stories and listening and understanding the sort of impact of words and what that can lead to. I got involved with the Remembering Srebrenica charity only last year when I spoke at the 30-year anniversary of it. It was my first time public speaking about the events, and I shared the experiences from my family, as I was only 3 years old when I came to England as a refugee, not from Srebrenica, but from a town called Prijedor. What's important to remember is that weekend in July when Srebrenica happened, that wasn't a one-off, that was a build-up of years in the making. Long before that weekend in 1995, the machines of ethnic cleansing were in motion from as early as the early 1990s. That was from political divide, them and us, rhetoric, division, and the words that were used, they came long before the first bomb or bullet. And we're here to share our story of our experience from Prijedor, which was one of the first towns that experienced ethnic cleansing. Like I said, last year I spoke about this story, but for me, as someone who was so young, I don't remember it. I just know the stories my parents tell me. So I thought I wanted to give my mum the platform to speak about this today and share her story. So I'll hand over to my mother.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. My name is Aida Dedic, and I work in England as a store associate at a shop TK Maxx. But I was only 26 when the war started in Bosnia, in Prijedor. And Prijedor, if anybody, that's the place in northwest of Bosnia, you know. And Prijedor was a lovely, lovely town. I was only living there for 4 years, married my husband. Before that, I lived in Tuzla. And when Prijedor was taken over forcibly by Serbs, it was 30 of April. And almost second day, the Serbs ordered us to put white flags on our houses or white bed sheets. And if we go to town, we have to wear white white ribbons. That was really, you know, that's only happened in Second World War with the Jews, you know, something in Nazis. And after that, you know, Prijedor, as we're talking about Srebrenica genocide, Prijedor genocide started at Prijedor in 1992 and finished in Srebrenica in 1995. Of course, that was a really bad experience, you know, coming from Prijedor. Most of the men's been taken to concentration camp. My husband was so lucky, and all the men's from my road, that's called the Karanska Ulica, and we didn't, the man who saved us was a Serb, actually. He was our neighbor. He was married to Muslim woman, and we've been very close neighbors and family. And when the three big army trucks came to our road, you know, to pick up men's, we've been, you know, saying goodbye to them, and they just been standing by the road waiting. And then that man called Slavko, or I can't remember, is it Slavko or Sasha or something like that. And he said, please leave these men alone. They said, oh, they've been shooting last night. It was shooting. He said, I was playing with them all night cards, and not chance, I swear to God, they didn't shoot. It wasn't any shootings from this road. And they listened to him. He was working in police, I think. And they left. They left, and they told him, if something happened, we heard, we're gonna kill you. And that was really brave. And we've been so thankful to that man. And today, we keep in contact with him. And after that, you know, we've been, you know, days past, everything. My husband was working in Slovenia, but he couldn't go back because, and we didn't, all the banks, all the closed, we couldn't withdraw the money, we couldn't find the food properly. Luckily, that year, our vegetable garden was so good. We had so many things in our garden, potatoes, runner beans, beetroots, and everything. So that was really, that helped us to survive. And I was going to tell you about our survival. When we left 21st of August 1992, it was organized Exile convoy from Prijedor. They've been telling on the radio Prijedor that people who wants to leave, they could leave safely to Bosnian Muslim territory. And we really, my husband said, we don't have any money, we should go. And we went there. It was about 2,000 people. Some of them went on the buses, some of them went on the trucks. And we went on a bus, but the bus was so crowded, you know, so crowded we could hardly breathe. And as soon as we took, you know, bus set off, the man came with a gun and he said, take over all your money, jewelry, and all other valuables. If you hide something, we will kill. Oh, we've been so petrified about that. I gave my earrings that I had, but I don't know how. I smuggled my ring, my wedding ring, smuggled in the peanuts bag. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I was. And also my husband, also he hid his watch. And then when we went through the mountain Vlasic, and the things horrifying was our bus broke down. And we, you know, just stood in the middle of the woods, all these big, tall trees around us. And we just thought, oh, it's an ambush. They're going to kill us. Oh, but luckily, it was just breakdown of the bus, actually. And it was in the later, I found in the newspaper that was said, lots of newspapers and media on the television was saying passengers from Prijedor saved by breakdown of the bus. Oh, that was, and we stayed overnight, stayed on the mountain on the Vlasic. We just been waiting, with, you know, praying to God. Oh, what's going to happen? And we've been thinking, oh, looky, those people who went before us. But actually, those people who went before us, they've been killed. You probably heard of massacre of Korochanske Stiene, Korochanske rocks, you know. And they took from those buses and trucks 200 men and told them to kneel down by the cliff. leđa da okrenu. Turn enough, and they shoot at them. The 200 people, only 12 survived. Oh, that was so that. So when we been going, second day on 22nd August, the other bus came, and we, mother and children, me and Nazra went to first in the truck, and I heard one Serb Chetnik, he said, "Are we going to kill them?" And the other one said, "No, it was enough killing, not more killing." Oh, that was real relief for us. And then we went by hodali smo, kako se kaže. By foot, about 2 hours, we came in Travnik, slobodna Muslim territory. And we went first in that Bosnian grammar school with thousands and thousands refugees trapped there. And then we found our auntie in Travnik, and she came and took us to her home. Yeah.
Obviously conscious of time, and there's so many more angles of this story, and it didn't end there, but that we wanted to share that one example of the bus, because like I said, I don't remember this, but my parents have told me this story, and sometimes when I hear it gives me chills to think how close you are to death, and had that bus not broken down, and all the different things that have led us to this country to be here in England today, which sort of brings us back to the the statement: we are here as survivors, we're here as witnesses of what hate, division can do. But I wanted to end on a more positive note and try and shed some light. But we are also here because of the love and compassion that was given to us from the community, from the neighbours that helped us kit out our first house, from the clothes on our back when we first got here, from the kids that stood up to bullies in the playground for me. Also as well, it was a Christian church that helped bring us over here, which I think, again, it's showing that unity across religion, across faiths. So although there is lots of evil and hatred in the world, there is also so many stories of compassion and hope that I hope we can all take from that. So as well as remembering and honouring, I think, a story of gratitude and compassion is something that me and my family hold very deeply. And that's why I started this with thanks for you all joining, because it is really great that you can give up your time to listen to our stories. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Nazra. Thank you. It's listening to both two generations speak. It's, for me, it's a reminder that even when you escape the war, the fighting doesn't stop. So we continue it through memory, through displacement, through separation, and the lives of the families that must rebuild. So thank you very much for sharing your story.
Thank you for that. So I think we want to thank you first. Katarzyna will come in a minute, but you've done a brilliant job, Ennis. You really have. And I want to personally thank all our speakers, and of course, especially the survivors, for their amazing stories, heartbreaking stories, but they're brave people. So Katarzyna, you want to come in?
Thank you, Kezra. Thank you, everybody on the panel today. This has been a really enlightening event, especially for the future generations, for young people, to be more aware of the history and to connect emotionally with what happened. So thank you so much for taking the time to share your testimonials today. And thank you, Kezra, for leading the discussion. Ennis, thank you for holding the space. And thank you to our wonderful public for joining today. And I think that's all for today.
One thing, next week is our last event for MACFEST, so please join us. And Professor Akbar Ahmed, thank you so much for your vast contribution, the films, the discussion, for leading, for joining us from a very busy time. And same for Mike, all the way from there. And again, Neil and Yusuf, well done. Thank you for joining us tonight. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you next week, inshallah, if you're able to join us next Sunday. It's with an author, a conversation with novelist Diane Abu Jaber. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.